Now that we have a virtual IP address defined for our service, we can move on to the next step, adding real servers. Real servers are the actual web application servers you wish to accelerate and secure. The defined real servers will later be added to a server farm where you can apply a load balancing scheme, session persistence, health monitoring, and enforce a firewall policy to secure the web application. To add a real server, navigate to Application Security, Configuration, Real Servers tab. Click on the New button. In the name field, define a unique and descriptive name for the real server. I'm going to set mine to Nginx01, as this server is running Nginx for the HTTP service, and it's the first server in my server farm. For the IP field, set the IP address of the server. My Nginx server is listening on class C IP address of 192.168.0.171. Set the real server to enabled, otherwise the server will not be able to service requests. In the port field, define the TCP port the real server's application is listening on. Nginx is listening on port 80 by default. For the max connections field, set the maximum number of connections allowed to the server. A max connections of 0 means that the server will accept an unlimited number of connections. I'm going to define a limit for this server of 100. The idle timeout field defines the maximum amount of time in seconds of how long to wait for a response from the real server before closing the connection. An idle timeout of 0 disables this timeout. I'm going to keep the default setting of 30 seconds for this real server. Server wait field allows you to set the waiting of the server to use with the weighted round-robin load balancing scheme. I'm going to keep the default setting for this real server. For the max content length, you can define the maximum response size in bytes sent by the server that Ishlangu will accept for processing. I'm going to keep the default setting as none of my content being served by the application servers is larger than the default setting, which is 1 gig. To save the real server configuration to the Ishlangu device, simply click on the Save button. In order to load balance requests properly, you will need at least 2 real servers defined in your Ishlangu configuration. I'm going to quickly add another Nginx server. Again, and have virtually the same configuration as Nginx01 other than obviously the name and the IP address.